and our family. That's the main goal. What we do, though, depends on the choices we make and the decisions we take. This, in turn, depends on education, which is the knowledge, and the skills to apply this knowledge to succeed. The better the education, therefore, the better our lives. That's why we say education is the path to prosperity. Now, education is not just what we learn in school or colleges, but the total sum of what we learn through all aspects of our lives, and that's great education. And this is part of the great education. I'm going to be sharing some of the lessons that I have learned throughout my life so that maybe it'll help other people have a better life. So, today's session is three things basically. Why we're going to talk about why great education, in other words, what is great about it. We're going to talk a little bit about the 4th of July. Why did we select 4th of July? And I think there is an echo someplace, but anyway, why did we select 4th of July? And then we're going to talk a little about every session. We're going to have a golden lesson that I have learned that I'll share with you, which might be helpful to other people as well. This is basically the format of all sessions. Three things. We're going to start with something that will help us make our life better. Usually it's wealth. So how to become wealthy. The second part will be learning a little bit more about life. The better we understand it, the better we learn. And then a golden lesson. So why great? Now, great is not just because that sounds like a good name, great education, but because it actually stands for globally relevant education and training, the acronym for GREAT. Now, global, why global? Because education needs to be universally applicable to all different types of life which are relevant to us. And it needs to be for anyone who wishes to learn. In other words, basically, we need to start thinking globally and not in silos of national or religion or of politics. Yeah, I know. Yes, it's true that all our lives we are taught about patriotism and nationalism and capitalism and communism and feminism and sexism and all sorts of divisive isms. But what we should be really thinking about is humanism. Now, this is not something I just dreamt up. This is a concept that a lot of learned people over the past have talked about it. In fact, there was a famous poet, Urdu poet, who he wasn't talking about humanity per se. He was talking about how Muslim people should join together because there was a lot of divisiveness going on. And he wrote a verse which stuck with me a long time. And I'll share that with you and even translate for those of you who don't understand Urdu. And the verse was, यूं तो मिर्जा भी हो, सैयद भी हो, अफगान भी हो, तुम सभी कुछ हो बताओ कि मुसलमान भी हो. What he was saying that, hey, you are a Shia or a Sunni or a Muslim or or a Sayyid or whatever different sect within Islam, but are you really Muslim? And I think in today's world we want to expand that. And if I was to say that verse, I would say, यूं तो ईसा भी हो, मूसा भी हो, मुसलमान भी हो, तुम सभी कुछ हो बताओ कि इंसान भी हो, which basically translated means, you are a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim, you can be all of those things, but foremost, are you a human being? And what we are talking about here is to set a global mindset and think humanity rather than divisive things. There is way so much divisive going on, and that's what it's all about. So that's why we're going to talk about global. Now, relevant, R for relevant. Why relevant? Because education for the sake of learning is not really that effective. You can learn a whole bunch of stuff, but if you're not going to be able to use it for solving some problems or to make your life better, it's not really that purposeful. So it should be why you need to learn or why you wish to learn, not so that you can become part of a workforce just to get a good job. That's what a
एक
lot
क्वेश्चन
of the current education is, but useful
एक
to
क्वेश्चन
you,
तुझे
not to somebody else.
कह रहा है
In other words, it should be
पीपीटी
about
में करके रखो उसको
your needs, your aspirations, and provide you the opportunity to try to be the best that you can be. Now, also understanding this notion of relevance is really important is a really an important concept to grasp. This is a concept that is not taught very often in normal schools and all that. Um, and perhaps that's why it is doubly important, because it is used by the competition to manipulate you and us to make decisions that they want us to make rather than those decisions which are good for you. So, to understand this notion of relevance and to constantly check to see, hey, is this relevant for me, is really, really important part of learning to be successful. Now we will discuss this phenomena of relevance in greater details when we discuss the notion of artificial constraints in one of the future lessons. But for the moment, it's just important that relevance is the key, and that is one of the foundations of this whole program. E for education. Now, many of you, anytime if you learn to play a new game or a sport, what is the first thing you do? You need to learn the rules of the game. You need to learn about the arena where you're going to be playing. You need to know about who your competition is. You need to learn about who your
ध्यान से क्वेश्चन
opponents
पूछता है तुझे
are
याद रखियो
and
ध्यान से सुन क्वेश्चन पूछता है
understand
तुझे
the theory of the game. Well, in the game of life, it's the same thing. You need to understand the theory of the game of life. That's education, and that is one of the things that we're going to be focusing on and talk about. Because the better you understand the theory, the better you can play the game. And in the game of life, the better you understand life and how it functions, the better your life is going to be. But just knowing the theory is not enough. A for and. In addition to the theory, and you need the skills to be able to apply that theory to achieve your goals. That's where the training part comes in. You need to acquire the skills to be able to apply this theory so that you can succeed in doing whatever it is that you wish to achieve. So that's the complete package, globally relevant education and training. Excuse me. Now, education has always been seen as a path to prosperity. And yes, it is still a way to succeed for a few. But the current education system seems to leave many behind. In fact, I believe the reason for this is that the education institution has lost its moral compass and has become an instrument for recruitment for the employers rather than beneficial for the student themselves so they can be successful. And I think this is perhaps one of the reasons for the huge gap between the 1% and the 99%. A lot of you already talked about it. So, great education, therefore, is designed to help anyone succeed who wishes to make their and their family lives better. It is part of a complete education and learning experience, and it actually consists of three things. This 52-week session is one part of it. We're going to do a session once a week. In addition to that, uh, 4 or 5 times a week, we are going to be updating our blog with a post which looks at one of the current events and looks at it from the Lifebahn humanism perspective. And then finally, just like we said before, just knowing the stuff is not enough. You need to be able to apply it. So finally, we have the third component, which is Lifebahn.net, which is a community of people who come together to help each other succeed using the knowledge that we have learned. And the founding principle of that community is the following. And you will see it pasted all over the websites and everywhere else, which is competition is a good way to succeed for a few. Collaboration is a better way to succeed for the many. And the whole idea is that, yes, we can all compete, but when we compete, few of us succeed. When we work together, then we can all be, well, not all, but much more of can be successful. And we can again talk a lot more about this as we study more and more. Now, why is the foundation of learning? What does that mean? That means we need to be able to ask the question why, and we are going to be asking a lot of questions why. And while we are on that topic of questions, I would like whoever you are out there to just in your email, just point out or say, let us know what you think is probably the most important question for you. Is it, hey, I want to get rich, I want to be wealthy, I want to be healthy, I want to be this or that, whatever it is, right? Just so that we can have a sense of what is on people's mind. I have a pretty good idea what I think most people would probably say and what it is, but we'll talk about it and use that for the next lesson. Now, as part of our standard format, as I said, there are three parts to this each session, and this was the first part where we introduced this stuff and talked about what it is that is important to us, so that we can set that as a goal. At the end of each one of those 1/3 sessions, we're going to take a couple of minutes break. So give everybody a chance to maybe ask any questions about what we have just talked about. Do you have any issues, any question that is not clear, and ask your questions. Quick ones, relative to this portion as well. And at the end of the session, we'll have another chance to ask other questions as well. So I'm going to take a minute break while you guys ask any questions, if anybody has any. If not, I will continue with the second part of the session.
अरे भाई पूछ
By the way, while we're talking about it, anybody can ask any question. Just like I said, one of the fundamental things is there is no question which is out of bound, no matter how
पहले hand raise
you
करना
know difficult it might be. No takalluf, just ask whatever you need to ask, anything on your mind. You'll always get a straight up answer from me. And one of those most common answers might be, hey, I don't know, but I'll find out. So no questions. Okay, then. The second part was, I said we will talk about why we chose today, July 4th, as a way as to launch this program. Well, as most people know, July 4th is the Independence Day for United States. And for me, what that means is that it was the day of freedom for United States. Uh, and I believe personally that this notion of freedom is really the foundation of American greatness. Now, there are people who will agree and disagree and say, hey, is America great or not? In my view, America is one of the greatest nations on earth at the moment. Will it always stay that way? Nobody knows. Was it always that way? No. But I think in the last few decades, or maybe a couple of centuries, it has been that way. And I think the reason for that is the foundation is, and the belief which is built into the American psyche, that we need to be free to choose and do what we like to be the best that they can be. And I think that is one of the most fundamental human rights there is, that everybody should have to the opportunity to work as best as they can without interference and subversion from anybody else. In fact, one of the reasons I chose to become a United citizen is because, for precisely that reason, I felt that all the places, and I was living in England at the time, and I've lived in many other countries where I had the opportunity to become nationals of US or I mean, UK or Canada or other places. I chose to become the American citizen because I felt, of all the places, this is the place where I would have the best opportunity to be the best I can be. And in my case, it turned out to be the true. I found the opportunities and, knock on wood, uh, managed to do a lot of what I wanted to do. So I think it's about the ability to be able to pursue those dreams. And I think that's the foundation. And I was hoping that today may be the day of freedom for all of us
जिंदगी
from all
शान क्या
kinds
मजा
of
रहा है
things
क्या लोड़े
that keep us from
पूछ
being
लेने की क्या
free.
कोई
You
क्यों कर
see,
रहे हो
freedom is many things and in many forms. I mean, we all know about slavery, and not being a slave is freedom. Uh, but one of the most important thing about freedom is, my view,
नहीं
is self-sufficiently self-reliance, which, you know, and that's a very important type of freedom. And most of us think that we are, but many of us are really not self sufficient. We are very dependent. And that's a notion that, again, not my idea, many other people, especially Allama Iqbal, who is considered the person who dreamt of the existence of Pakistan. He had
चलो
he said a verse, and he
अरे
was a
भाई
tremendous
मीटिंग है एक मैं
poet
करता हूँ तुझे आधे
and
घंटे
has
में
written lots of poems. And I obviously a fan of his, and many of his verses and poems have stuck with me. And one of those ones, which really is on the top of my list that I understand and love and live by, is the following. He said, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है, which loosely translated means that, hey, person, be so self-sufficient, so self-reliant, so independent, that when God is writing your fate, before he does, he checks with you and say,
भाई
hey,
एक लड़के भी ज्वाइन
Bande,
की वो
tell
लेट कर
me
दी
what exactly is it that you wish me to do.
भाई ये
That's
शायरी टाइप
really a
यार
powerful thing. And I think one of the reasons he was talking about that was because this was prior to 1947, before the partition of Pakistan. And he felt that the people of India and Pakistan subcontinent at the time, they were part of the colonial British Empire, that he wanted to inspire people to say, hey, don't be depending on this, don't be subservient to this British Empire people, but become self-sufficient, go for
अरे
independence.
मुस्लिम
And I
था
think
भी
that
छोड़
may be the
शायरी तो
reason,
यही
one of the
है
reasons why
मुस्लिम वाला मत
eventually
बोलना
India and
बोलना इसकी
Pakistan
बहुत ज्यादा
became
शायरी
independent from the
अब
colonization.
एक शायरी ठीक है
And
स्टार्टिंग वाला
unfortunately, they haven't made the most of it, but at least they are not subservient. But that was his point, was become self-sufficient. Now we are dependent on lots of other things. A lot of people think that everybody in America is also self-sufficient, but I'm not sure that's necessarily true. There are lots of other things which hold us back. But that's part of what we're going to be learning about. So self-sufficiency is a key. Another key thing is not being afraid. Not being afraid is another form of freedom. I mean, think about it and see how often people are fearful of things, not necessarily, uh, you know, getting shot at and all that, which is a big time issue in some places, but simple fears of, oh my God, I'm behind in my taxes. Oh my God, I don't have enough money for for food and all kinds of things. And a lot of these things are really, really stressful. In fact, they say stress is one of the silent killers. And I think it is because of these reasons. So, and stress is a topic we're going to be talking about amongst all these things, how to manage stress. But the point is that being free means a lot of these things. Now, freedom for you, perhaps, uh, this could be the education thing for some people who, are in somewhere stuck in some wherever rut there. A lot of us find ourselves in, and maybe they will get inspired to say, "Hey, let me be free." So, and most importantly, to me, freedom is the ability to be asked any questions you want without the fear of somebody is going to throw you in jail because you're asking these questions, Or there are lots of times we are prevented from asking questions through other constraints. Oftentimes there are certain uh, groups or groups where you join and they tell you, "Oh no, you just can't ask questions. It is what it is, and be done with it." Usually, whenever I hear that, to me that's a red flag, and I ask even more questions. So, and one other thing we're going to learn here is to be able to ask question, ask why, and we go from there. So I'm hoping that we are going to learn a lot of these things which will help us become truly, truly free in that sense. Okay, so this is the second part. So we're going to take another little break. If you have any more questions about this, and then I'm going to share with you a lesson that I had learned, somebody told me, which has helped me a lot of different ways, and we'll talk about that. So another little break and see if you have any questions.
Hello, sir.
And we will have lots of time to ask questions later on. By the way, when you guys are talking, I don't know why I'm not hearing too good. It's very quiet. And I think I've turned my
Hello.
volume up full blast. So yeah, that's better. Yeah, go ahead, Drew. You have a question?
Yes, sir. I understand you said that it was your point of view that America is the greatest country. But
Yeah.
few time ago you said that while competition is good way to succeed for few, collaboration is better way to succeed for many. So if you are saying America is the greatest, it means that other countries are not. So how is collaboration word you are using if you are only saying that America is the greatest?
Okay. That's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that question because it will definitely clarify something. So, um, competition is good for a few, collaboration is good for the many. Yes? So, listen to this carefully. If you remember in the 60s, John F. Kennedy said, "Hey, we're going to go to the moon." Okay, and we had just come out of recession a few decades ago, and America was doing pretty good, and with this idea of the best you can be and innovation and so on and so forth. Now, the significance of that about going to the moon is that he set a goal for the American people for them to collaborate together and succeed in this mission. And guess what? They did collaborate and they succeeded in this mission. But as a byproduct of their mission, so many innovative things happened in the 60s and 70s and 80s. This is one of the times, I think, when America made the greatest progress. Okay? Now, that's the collaboration part. What about the competition part? Well, the competition part comes from when people compete, there's few succeed and many do not. At that time, the mindset of America was we are collaborating. and competing with everybody else. So America was competing with everybody else. They want to be the best they could be, and they beat up on everybody. And the few succeeded, which was them. And everybody else who was not collaborating, but competing, got clobbered. Russia being a great example, until so on and so forth. Notice one of the, and I've been living in Russia many, many years. In Russia, the I think the most prosperity for the most Russian people occurred post the Reagan area when the Berlin Wall was down and Gorbachev came over, and for once, Russia was free to trade with everybody else, not just competing and building arms and all that, but actually focusing on growth. And if you look at Russia prior to 1990s and thereafter, it's like day and night. I was fortunate enough to be there for about 14, 50 years in the 2000s, and enjoyed some of the best part of Russia, if you like, and during the World Cup for Soccer Cup, it was really, really apparent that how when they open up and instead of fighting with everybody else, they collaborate with everything else, things get better. And when you're competing, things don't get better. So to answer your question simply, yes, America was collaborating within themselves. That's why they were so successful, but competing with everybody else. So other people were not as successful as them. Let's talk about the other people who were collaborating with them, by the way, during that time, such as United Kingdom, Israel, few other people who collaborated with them, the allies. They also succeeded relatively well, and all the people who were competing with them without collaboration did not succeed. I hope that kind of answered the question. Did it, or you need more convincing? Not that I'm trying to convince you one way or the other, was my opinion.
Yeah, sir. I got the answer.
Well, good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's great. Thank you for asking that question. I hope people will ask all those questions and question everything that I say. No problem. All right. And I am always willing to learn something. No matter how old you are, you can always learn something new every day. Okay. So, any other questions before I move on to the third piece, which is today's golden lesson? Okay. Many, many, many years ago. I think it was at the end of eighth grade. At the time we were living in Iran, and I was going to a Pakistani school, which was a small school. And our principal, Mrs. Fazilbash, I think I left after eighth grade because I wanted to go to Pakistan and get my metric. Anyway, so when I was leaving, she said, look, I'm not a rich person and I don't want to buy you big presents and like going away present and all that. So I will tell you what, I will share with you a lesson which has been really helpful for me. And I think it can be very helpful to you. And it's probably worth more than any other rinky-dink gift will be for you. Okay. And she said, listen, very simple. Anything ever learned is never lost. What does that mean? That means if you have an opportunity to learn something, go ahead, learn it. Because sooner or later, it will come in handy for you. And in my case, besides the fact that this lesson was helpful and I learned anything that I could learn, some reluctantly, some otherwise, I think there was a lesson that I learned that not only helped me a lot, but actually might have saved my life. So this is what happened. I think when I was in college, I think in Southampton University, we had to take one of those classes that you have to take whereby like a PE kind of a class. And in those days, Bruce Lee was big and we were all into karate and all that. And I was trying to pick which PE things to do. And there was this judo class, and I thought, oh, there you go, karate, chop chop, just like Bruce Lee. I'm going to learn how to beat up on people. That's a great idea. I was kind of small, so it was good to be have that kind of skill. So I thought I'll join this class. So I went to join this class, and we've just started. And the first thing the guy said, "Well, guys, before you get all excited, this is not about karate marate. This class is called judo, and judo is about defense. And the whole idea about judo defense is that when you are going to fall, you roll your body into a ball and roll with the fall." It was kind of rhythmic and somehow it stuck. But the whole idea of doing this defensive thing and all that didn't really sit very well with me. I said, forget it. I don't want to do this. And that was the last time I stayed in this lesson. And that was it. But I just learned that one lesson. And that was pretty good. I thought that was a pretty cool thing to know. You if you're gonna fall, you roll your body into a ball and roll with the fall. That's pretty cool. That's it. So many years later, my best friend Keith and I, we were traveling. At those times, used to be called Yugoslavia. Now it's called Croatia. From a town called Split towards Dubrovnik, and we were going to a town called Makarska, which is right on the coast of Yugoslavia and now Croatia, and it is beautiful. It's a cliff up the top, blue ocean at the bottom, with the deep down, lovely weather. And then we were on this bus traveling from there. And as the bus was going towards Makarska, I had fallen asleep and I just woke up around, it was 2 o'clock or so. And I looked outside and I saw this beautiful uh, scenery of this blue water and sunshine and everything else. And I said to Keith, hey, we should be almost getting there anytime to Makarska. And he said yes. And as I finished saying that, I looked in front. As the car was weaving through, there was a slight rain going on in this windy road, cliff on the left hand side all the way into the ocean. The right hand side, there was a little ravine with trees and things 30, 40 feet down. And we are going along this road. And just as I looked up, I said, something didn't seem right. And it was because it seemed like the car coming our way was on the wrong side of the road. So I was about to say something or something, and as if the bus driver had the same thought, and he swerved his steering wheel to the right to avoid the car coming into the bus. And as he swerved to the right, he hit the crash barrier. There is the crash barrier, came back in again. The car kept going forward, and a bus, and the other car, which was coming another way, also kept coming forward and wasn't seemed like it was getting out of the way. So the bus driver swerved again, and this time he didn't miss the car, nor did he miss the railing, and the bus smashed into the guardrail and started sliding down the ravine very slowly. And of course, everybody was, this is all happening instantaneously. You know what I mean? Very slowly. And as the bus started sliding down, imagine the big bus that's sliding down the ravine. And as you look down, you see these trees at the bottom coming at you at like 90 miles an hour. Not that they're coming that fast, but the bus is going towards them. And as that happened, I thought, this is it, adios. And they say when you're about to die, your life flashes through your mind. And that's what happened. All the things were flashing through my mind, all the bad things that I did. I was naughty to my mother and didn't listen to her, and all those kind of things. And amongst those film that was going through about my life, this lesson popped up. This guy is standing there saying, if you're going to fall, roll your body into a ball and roll with the fall. And just like that, as if it was a wake up call, you understand, all this happened literally instantaneously. Just like that, I movie stopped. I put my head between my knees, put my hand behind my back, and rolled with the fall. And as the bus landed on its roof at the bottom of the ravine, I landed at the bus with my shoulder rolled into a ball, right? And on my hands and knees. And then people were screaming. There was glass and blood and all kinds of stuff all over the place. And people saying, "Get out, bus is going to blow up, and the wheels are going, and the engine is going." It was madhouse. So I decided I'm going to go through the window, which was right next to that, and crawl out. And as I was crawling out, turned around and saw Keith behind me, and he's sitting there in a bit of a daze, thinking maybe he was stuck because there was a chair that had fallen on top of him. So I turned around and grabbed the back of the chair, and it just lifted up. And he goes, "Oh," and then he and I crawled out. And as we walked out, we obviously checked each other out, and there was no broken bones or anything on our part, no blood, no nothing. Chris, Chris, I mean, Keith had a little bit of a bruise on his shoulder, and nothing seemed to be wrong with me. So we said, "Oh, thank God, everything is okay." And then as we looked around, there were people with all kinds of injuries and blood pouring out of people's mouths and whatever. And I said to Keith, I said, "You know what? I mean, I kind of feel bad. All these people are kind of hurt, and we seem to be okay. So maybe we should go help these people out." And Keith said, "Yeah, you help people out. I'm going to be sick." And he got sick, and while he was getting sick, I thought, let me go help other people out. And I saw this one guy who was walking in a daze, and I had seen him before, and he had blood just, we had broken his nose or something, congealed on his face, and it's kind of dripping down. And I looked at him and I was like, "Can I help you something?" And obviously, we didn't understand the language very well. And he kind of shook his head. And I kind of cracked a joke, which was kind of stupid. "Hey, what's the matter? You don't like the color of my shirt? It doesn't match, whatever, which kind of stupid. But obviously, he didn't respond or anything like that. And then I saw another woman, and I was going to go help her. And as I bent down, and I had never seen a dead person before, and for some reason, I bent down and I knew that woman was dead, and that was too much for me, and I was going to sick. So I said, "Hey, Keith, let's get out of here." And then we crawled up back to the road where all kinds of mayhem was going on. And then eventually we were taken to the hospital. And when we got to the hospital, they were attending the people in the severity of the injuries. And it turns out that out of the 39 people on the bus and 2 people in the car, 4 people died, and somebody lost an arm, and somebody lost their eyesight, and besides all kinds of other broken bone and injuries. And finally, it was our turn to go into the nurse's office, and she looked at us like she'd been working all hard. And she looked at us like annoyed. "What the hell are you doing here?" She said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Well, we were in the bus accident." And she looked at us like, "No, what's the matter? You can't be in a bus accident." I said, "I swear we were in the bus accident." And so she looked and she saw Keith's bruise and took care of that. Then she asked me, "Oh, what's wrong with you?" And she looked all over the place. We couldn't find anything else. And on this finger right here, there was a little prick of blood with maybe a piece of glass or something like that. So she said, "Okay." And she cleaned it up and put a band-aid on it. And that what it is. The moral of the story is that I am 100% convinced that the reason we lucked out with that, with, unscathed as we did, was because of that one lesson, because I rolled my body into a ball and rolled with the fall. And I think the same thing with with Keith, I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe we can't tell, but my guess is that as I went into that motion, he probably saw and did the same thing. And that's why both of us were kind of okay. Again, the final moral of the story, the lesson is anything that ever learned is never lost. And from that day on, and even before that, it has become my life's thing to learn anything. You give me a chance to learn something, I'm there. I learn new games every day. I play literally almost every game that I come across, sports games otherwise. I learn to go eat, drink, clean, no matter what it is. Nothing is out of bounds. And it has always been tremendous, tremendous help for me. So I think if people make a habit of learning things, not reluctantly, but just say, hey, let me understand this. And I think it's a skill and it will definitely come in handy and help you. I would also like to say, if possible, when we have a few minutes at the end of the session, if some of you have similar experiences that you want to share, be my guest. Learn to share and experiences is one of the great ways of learning. So, that's the format of our sessions. So, next lesson, we are going to talk about uh, one of the things about what do we do to make our lives better. And I suspect one of the things, based on what I have my experience all over the place, one of the things that people think is most important to make their lives better is wealth building. Everybody is shooting for wealth. So we're going to talk about wealth, and the way you measure wealth is through money. So we'll talk about money in one third of the session. The second session we talk about life. What is life theory? How does it function, and so on and so forth, so we can understand it better. And we will share another of my life lessons I have learned. Obviously, as you can tell, if we're going to do one lesson every do, there got to be at least 52 lessons I've learned. And believe me, I have learned a lot of lessons. I'm not smart like most people, so I need a lot of learning. So I have a lot of lessons that I've learned, and I'm going to share them with you. Now, so that's the format of how we're going to do. And like we said in our introduction, and everything else, we are going to have one session per week, every Sunday at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, New York time. But instead of this Sunday, we're going to pretend today is Sunday's lesson. So the next lesson will be, or not lesson, I shouldn't be calling lessons because they're sessions. There's only one lesson within it. This session will be July 14th, same time, same place, same link, same everything else. And that's where we will be talking about. So, and each time we're going to have this
Hello,
exit ticket.
hello, sir. Sorry for interrupting.
What happened? I'm sorry, I'm
Hello.
missing something. Somebody say something?
Sir, Daud have a question and he
Yeah, yeah,
wants to
sir.
ask.
Oh, you have a question. Okay, let me finish
Yeah,
one thing and then I'll give you a chance to answer the question. Give me 1 second, all right, to finish my thought. So, this exit ticket. So,
okay.
at the end of each session, um, I would like to request and ask whoever is in the meeting, everybody, if you could do something for me. 3 questions I would like you to answer in an email. Don't have to elaborate. Very simple. One is, what did you like, if anything, about this session? Two, what could we do better to make it more helpful? And third, what's on your mind? What is it that you want to talk about? And then I want you to remind you and remember that this is a part of a three piece puzzle, if you like. This is sections is one. There is a lifebahn.org, so which is the blog, and we posted our very first blog post today, and then we're going to be posting one. I would imagine we'll try to at least 5 times a week. Saturday is a holiday. Sunday we'll have the session, so we'll have these 5 blogs. So we'll have a blog post tomorrow. And then thirdly, there is this Lifebahn community where we all come together. We have joined. Again, all of this is for free. You join and see what you, if you want to become part of this community, which is for us to collaborate to make our lives better, just like when America collaborated and made it the greatest nation on earth. So maybe we can make it a great, great community. That's it. So I'm sorry I interrupted you. Somebody had a questions. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sir, I have a story that totally relates to the lesson that
Okay,
if
that's
we
great.
learn something,
Can you, sorry,
yeah,
whoever, excuse me, sorry, and whoever, just as a matter of protocol, whoever has these questions or suggestions, which we would love to share, just please start, say your name and where you're from or wherever you are, something so that people can identify as a matter of introduction and then share your ideas. Okay?
okay, sir. It's me, sir, Muhammad Dawood Sheikh from Pakistan, and the story is, sir, one of my friend once came to me and said, "Hey, Dawood, do you know how to use Photoshop?" And I said, "No, I didn't. But what's the problem?" And he said, uh, "I have assignment that we have to create some illustrations or cookies to use for their like." Designing purpose because he was a fashion designing student, and I said no, I don't know how to use Photoshop, but we can try. So we learn Photoshop and some tricks that how to make design and how to make illustration, and we did that assignment very well. And after that, after some time, my client texts me that we need a guy that know Photoshop well. We have to create some illustrations. And I said, I know how to use Photoshop. And he said, okay. And I took that project and did very well and get paid. I think about 100. No 100. It's about $1,000, I think. And even in my running projects, I often use Photoshop again and again. So that the lesson that's totally led that if we learn something that definitely will help. So I learned Photoshop by chance and he helped me a lot.
it helps.
Thank you for that, Daud. That's what I'm talking about. I am sure there are
अरे
hundreds of stories like that all over the place because it really is a golden lesson. I mean, I didn't know the power of it when Mr. Kazalbash told me about it, but over the years I have learned the value of it. So thank you. That is great. And hopefully we will learn more and more lessons and each one will be valuable and collectively they will become
क्या चलता है
even
भाई रुक जा
more
अभी
valuable.
इसको फीडबैक देना है
Thank you. Any other questions? Anybody else?
Hi, this is Masood Khan from Toronto,
Sorry,
Canada. This is
I can't
Masood
hear you.
Khan from Toronto, Canada. We got a question
Okay.
in terms of the sessions that you'll be having. Are those independent or those will be linked to each other? And if somebody miss one, you have to go back and listen or look at the recordings of the previous
Uh,
sessions.
एक और
Another
क्वेश्चन आस्क टू
great
दैट मतलब
question, and I'm glad you asked.
एक और
The
क्वेश्चन
answer to your question is even though they are
आस्क
kind of related to each other, but fear not, because every one of these sessions, including I hope the questions and answers, are recorded. And what we are going to do is after
भाई एक
each
और
session, we are going to
अरे
post them
ऐसे ही नॉर्मल
on both our websites and
हाउ
even
लैंग्वेज
probably link in the
ऑन
blog
इन
so
टर्म्स
that people can
हर कुछ
go
में
and
वही
go
चल
through the previous sessions, all of them, and before they sign up for the thing. So the process is that each session, when you get an email inviting you to join, and not everybody needs an email, then you could just go and register for that second session. But you can always go back and go through the sessions online. And by all means, even ask questions about that needs to be clarified in the subsequent sessions. And while we are on that topic, I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so while we are on the topic, remind me something else. People might be wondering about, hey, about fees. They say, hey, is this some kind of a scam where you're going to do this and start charging me money? And the answer to your question, I think, is, and we already tried to address that. in the introduction and all that, the idea is this is like the whole idea of collaboration. Okay. The main purpose of this is to build that community where people can become successful, right? Now, at the moment, I'm kind of funding it and I will as much as I can, but at some point, it becomes too much. And the whole idea is that if people find these sessions useful or any, the whole thing's
अरे
useful, you know,
dude,
I don't
देखो
need to get
फोटो
paid,
देख,
but you
ये
could
देख फोटो,
contribute towards that, whatever
इसका
you
करो बस
think
बैक
it
बैक
is
तरफ देखो.
worth to you. If it is nothing, then nothing is fine. Nobody's gonna choice you. Nobody's gonna stop from you from joining in and whatnot or any other stuff. Okay. I know some people I was talking to the other day, telling them about it, and the guy could not believe. He kept saying, he said, "Explain to me, how can you be not charging any money? How is it going to work? How can you do this?" I said, "I'm telling you, man, I'm doing it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense." And I just explained to him, I said, "Look, you live in this competitive world where nobody does something for nothing, and that's the upside down idea that I have been attempted to cut across because I have learned over the years with my experiences, accidentally, I'm sure, that hey, the more I try to help people, for some reason, the more it helps me. So it has literally become my habit. Sometimes I do it, overdo it to help everybody, no matter what. Even people don't need help, I'm trying to help them. So, and I have been told I should stop doing that. So I'm working on it. But the answer to your question is, or whoever was thinking about
Drink
it,
and have I
that
drink.
it really is no fee, but you're welcome to contribute to help grow the community and help people who might need help. Because even if no matter how much you learn, at some point or the other, you gotta put food on the table, and you can't just live on theory. So they might
Hmm?
need some help. And the idea with this whole community is that if people need help, we will do help them. Anyway, that is what all I have to say, unless we have, I think, 5 more minutes. So if any more questions, I'm happy to answer them and give you a few minutes to think about it before I conclude. No more questions. Good. So I'm going to conclude our lesson. Let everybody go get on with their lives. And next week's the title of next week's session is the art of learning, and that's what we're going to discuss, how to learn efficiently and all that wonderful stuff. And that's it. So let me not keep you anymore. Thank you very, very much for all your time and effort. And I hope I will see you guys on the 14th, same time, same place. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Okay, sir. Bye bye.
Bye bye. I don't know how do I shut this thing off. I can't find it. Because you got this blur thing. Yes,